Hello and welcome to the day ahead. It is Friday, June the 12th. I'm Andrew Gagan. Well, the local market is set to rally at the open with ASX futures up 1.7%. This follows a major rebound on global markets after President Trump announced that Iran had approved a peace deal and he had cancelled further military strikes against the regime. Subsequently, he said he expected a signing ceremony to take place in Europe this weekend and that the Strait of Hormuz will then reopen. The market reaction was swift, with oil prices, bond yields and the US dollar falling sharply. Wall Street's three major indices registered their biggest daily gains since April 8th, when the US and Iran agreed to a temporary ceasefire. The S&P 500 was boosted by the chip makers, with the semiconductor index jumping almost 8%, its biggest move in more than a year. Among the notable movers were Micron, ARM Holdings and Marvell Technology, along with Intel and SanDisk. At the Mag 7, Tesla rallied along with Nvidia, while Microsoft and Meta fell. Oracle shares plunged after the company projected capital spending plans for fiscal 27 above Wall Street estimates. Adobe raised its annual revenue and profit forecast, but the sudden exit of its CFO added to concerns about the company's strategy, with shares of the Photoshop maker falling 5% in extended trading. The rebound in equities comes on the eve of SpaceX's Nasdaq debut, with its IPO having raised a record $75 billion, valuing the company at $1.77 trillion, making Elon Musk's spacecraft manufacturer one of the world's most valuable companies. Investor excitement over the space trade saw Virgin Galactic shares rocket higher, along with York Space Systems. Well, President Trump has said the United States and Iran could sign a peace deal as soon as this weekend that would reopen the Strait of Hormuz to shipping. He's saying the strait will officially open as soon as we sign, which could be soon, very soon, he said, maybe over the weekend in Europe. Well, however, Iran's leadership has said no final decision on an agreement has been reached. Its demands include the lifting of international sanctions, the release of billions of dollars in frozen assets, and recognition of its control of the Strait of Hormuz. Meanwhile, the European Central Bank has raised its interest rates for the first time in nearly 3 years, hiking by 25 basis points to 2.25% as it tries to counter inflation before a surge in energy costs triggered by the Iran war spreads more broadly across the Eurozone economy. And US producer price inflation in May jumped from 5.7% year on year to 6.5%. And the World Bank cut its global growth forecast for 2026 to 2.5% due to the war, and said growth could slow to just 1.3% if energy supply disruptions prove more severe than anticipated. Well, Treasury yields dropped sharply on President Trump's announced peace deal. The US two-year yield falling to 4.04%, the 10-year was down to 4.45%. Australian three-year government bond yield futures fell from to 4.42%, the 10-year slipped to 4.84%. The US dollar also weakened significantly on the news, down around 0.7% against the Swiss franc. The Aussie dollar has climbed back to 70.5 US cents. Well, commodities have moved dramatically on President Trump's announcement, with oil prices plummeting on expectations that the Strait of Hormuz will be reopened. Brent crude lost around 4.5% to trade at around $89 a barrel. Gold rebounded after hitting its lowest point since November earlier in the session. Spot gold up around 3.5% to close to $4,210 an ounce. Copper futures rose more than 2%. Iron ore fell slightly to 103 US a tonne. And Bitcoin has also rallied on positive investor sentiment to be trading at around 63,500 US dollars. That is your day ahead. We'll see you again on Monday.